Have you ever wondered in the middle of the night about dragons, one of the most legendary mythical creatures of all time? A giant lizard that breathes fire. The perfect subject for folklore and tales across different civilizations. But where did the idea of dragons even come from? Were they ever real? And does it even make sense for a creature this massive to fly through the skies while breathing fire? Welcome to Midnight Reflections, where curiosity never sleeps. Now, let's find out. One of the strangest things about dragons is that nearly every ancient civilization had stories about them. From China and India to the Middle East, Europe, and even the Americas. In Western cultures, Europe, and the Americas, dragons are often depicted as giant beasts with powerful legs, razor-sharp claws, a long neck, and massive bat-like wings. But on the other side of the world, in China, dragons look completely different. In Chinese culture, the dragon is a massive serpent-like creature with no wings, long whiskers, and curved horns. And it doesn't stop there. If you dig into the mythology of any ancient civilization, you'll find a version of the dragon, each with its own unique look. In ancient Persia, they had a dragon called Aji Sruvara, which was described as a massive yellow-scaled beast with giant horns. In Mesopotamia, the Assyrians had Mushushu, a dragon-like creature featured in their mythology. In Indian legends, there was Vritra, and in Greek mythology, a similar creature by the same name. The Norse Vikings had Nidhöggr, a monstrous serpent dragon, and even the ancient Egyptians had their own version, Apep, the serpent of chaos. Many ancient cultures and civilizations described dragons as real creatures, some soaring through the skies, while others slithered across the land. But were dragons ever real? There are actually several theories that attempt to explain their existence, or lack thereof. In her book, The First Fossil Hunters, author Adrienne Mayer suggests that dragons might have originated from the discovery of massive bones. Ancient people found these giant remains, tried to make sense of them, and over time, myths of dragons and giants began to form. With each passing generation, the idea of dragons as mythical beasts took shape, and these bones became proof of their existence. Similarly, Dr. Carl Schuker, in his book Dragons: A Natural History, states, "Dragon legends are not just wild fantasies but possibly misinterpreted records of past geological eras, evidence of humanity's awe in the face of nature's raw power." And there's plenty of evidence to back this up. The Chinese, for example, have written records dating back over 1,700 years claiming that they discovered dragon bones. In fact, similar discoveries have been made throughout history. To put it simply, ancient civilizations would stumble upon giant bones and, with no other explanation, assume they belonged to enormous creatures that once roamed the earth. Over time, every newly found fossil reinforced the belief in dragons, creating a never-ending cycle. Every massive bone must belong to a dragon, and all dragons must have gone extinct, without considering any other possibilities. But let's take a step back and think about this from another angle. If dragons were real, could they actually fly? There's actually a theory that dragons were originally flying dinosaurs, but each civilization added its own spin to the story, shaping them into legendary creatures over time. One of the strongest pieces of evidence for this theory is that nearly every ancient civilization had myths about dragons, despite the vast distances and time gaps between them. How could cultures that never interacted all come up with the idea of giant reptilian beasts? Another clue lies in prehistoric creatures that actually had wings and could fly. Take the Quetzalcoatlus, for example. This massive dinosaur had a wingspan of 10 meters, 32 feet, and stood as tall as a giraffe. Because of its sheer size, many researchers, Adrienne Mayer and Walter Chapman included, suggest that it could have been the real-world inspiration behind dragon myths. According to them and other experts, despite its enormous size, the Quetzalcoatlus was incredibly lightweight, allowing it to fly efficiently. This directly contradicts the way dragons are depicted in movies and folklore as massive, heavy beasts that somehow defy gravity. So, could it be that the dragons of legend were just ancient humanity's way of interpreting real creatures that once ruled the skies? Now, what about the fire-breathing part? Most people assume that even if dragons were real, there's no way they could actually breathe fire. But according to some animal researchers, it's not as far-fetched as you might think. Meet the bombardier beetle, a tiny insect with a mind-blowing defense mechanism. When threatened, this beetle releases a superheated chemical spray that reaches up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cause serious burns. And it doesn't just release it, it explodes with a loud popping sound. For years, scientists were baffled. How could such a fragile little creature create such intense heat without burning itself? The answer is a chemical reaction. Inside its body, the beetle stores two separate chemicals in isolated compartments. The moment it senses danger, it mixes them in a special chamber near its abdomen. The reaction instantly produces heat and pressure, causing the boiling liquid to shoot out in rapid bursts. If a tiny insect can pull this off, then is it really impossible for a much larger creature, like a dragon, to develop a similar ability? But there's also a theory that dragons are purely mythical, a product of human fears and imagination. According to this idea, dragons symbolize mankind's primal fear of dangerous animals. That's why their depictions vary so wildly across different cultures. Some saw dragons as giant winged beasts with a lion's head, while others imagined them with fangs, horns, or serpent-like bodies. Some even portrayed dragons as literal demons, while others combined features from multiple animals into one terrifying creature. Despite the vast distances and time gaps between civilizations, they all had a version of the dragon. Some researchers believe this suggests ancient cross-cultural exchanges, while others think oral traditions and ancient artifacts helped pass down the legend through generations. But let's not forget the most important and dangerous theory of all, one backed by hundreds of pieces of evidence. Dragons were absolutely real, but they went extinct because they didn't press like, share, and subscribe. Now you know. Got more midnight questions? Drop them in the comments. Stay curious, and I'll see you in another Midnight Mystery.